Hi, Charlene Burke here with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where we are talking about Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Today we are talking about chapter 13, more specifically near the end, where we're talking about how the greatest forces are intangible. In the PDF that I've got in my live stream available to those who are here live with me, we are on page 188. And what we're talking about here is that which is difficult to describe, and yet when we recognize it, we feel powerful sometimes. And other times, we recognize it and we feel minuscule, right? Because these are great forces at work. So to bring us into that discussion, during the Depression in the early 20th century, during the recession that we are still the tail end of in our lifetime right now, we can see and we can begin to understand some of these forces that we're going to be talking about, the intangible and the unseen. When we, as men, as humans, rely too much on our physical senses, we lose sight of these the intangible forces. We lose sight of the spiritual forces, of the power of these forces. And that's limiting our knowledge to these physical senses. And honestly, as you know, some people speak lightly of the spirit forces, some speak lightly of the power of faith. But here's the thing. It says right in the book here, which I'll go to instead of my opinion, right? The whole of mankind has not the power to cope with nor to control the intangible force wrapped up in the rolling waves of the ocean. We can't start the wave, nor can we stop the wave. Man has not the capacity to fully understand the intangible force of gravity. I put in my term of fully understand because Stephen Hawking has given us outstanding research on the forces of gravity. But most of us still don't understand it, do we? Just in general, the average person walking around. These things might be available to us to learn, but have we? And even if we learn it and we know it, to what level are we able to control it? And that really is the question, isn't it? So let's go on the premise that in general, men and women, you and I, don't have the capacity to understand the intangible force of gravity, which keeps our little Earth suspended in mid-space. Keeps me from falling from it or floating about, right? So we can't control that force. We are entirely subservient to the intangible force which comes with a thunderstorm or a tornado. I just was talking about being in tornado country here. Oh, there's no stopping a tornado. Just telling you. No stopping it. No stopping a hurricane. No stopping a basic thunderstorm with lightning and booming thunder. Right? We're also just as helpless in the presence of that intangible force of electricity. And most of us honestly don't even know what electricity is, where it comes from or what its purpose is. Honestly, most of us don't. I do. But that's because I've studied it. That's the only reason. Why else would I know that? All right. Nor is this by any means the end of man's ignorance in connection with things unseen and intangible. And at this point, I want to point out that ignorance means we just don't know, which means that we can No, we can learn. He does not understand the intangible force and intelligence wrapped in the soil of the earth, the force which provides him with every morsel of food he eats, every article of clothing he wears, every dollar he carries in his pockets. Again, we're talking about an intangible force that if, now this is me, we sit quietly, can we honestly say we understand and can control this? I can't. And last but not least, man, with all of his boasted culture and education, understands little or nothing of the intangible force. The greatest of all the intangible force is the intangible force of thought. We only know a little bit about the physical brain, okay? We know that it runs on electricity and that stupendous things can be thought, but we're just tapping the surface. And this was written almost 100 years ago, and it's still true today. We are still just tapping the surface of what we are capable of with our brains and the intangible force of thought. So if we understand the principle of the mastermind, we get an inkling, I believe. We get an inkling of what that intangible great force of thought is. I've had the experience where I've been in the team, I've been in a small group, and we're so focused on finding a problem that it's like we're reading each other's minds. But then one of us suddenly is inspired. We're all like up here pinging off of each other ideas and what ifs and maybes and why nots, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in from complete left field. Totally different viewpoint. If you were to listen, it doesn't make any sense how they came up with that thought. There's a lot of energy that happens when you have a group that comes together with a single focus, a lot of energy. And what we're describing here, what Napoleon Hill is trying to describe to us, is that energy actually is generated by thought. And it's intentional, focused thought on solving a problem. It's harmonious discussion, right, of a definite subject. And it's mind stimulation. It's mind stimulation. And when that happens and you have other people happening with it, even in a small group, it's an incredible experience. Now, if we take that and we expand it to the general malaise that occurs in a country that is stricken with economic depression or an economic recession we just went through as a world, how many people are stuck in the thinking that my world has fallen apart, nothing is going to get any better, I'm in survival mode, and it will never change? And don't even try to tell me that it will. Don't even try to tell me there's a different way to look at this. Don't try to be the do-gooder, the positive thinker, because that's not going to work with me. How many are like that? How many more are like that than are like you and me and those that are sitting in this room right now in your comfort place, whatever that may be, the car, might be in the office, might be in your bed, might be in your favorite chair. We, as this small group here, are focused on, I want to think forward. I want to think positive. I understand where I am now, and it's not where I want to be. Therefore, I want to move forward, and I will move forward because I see that I can move forward. Very different kind of thinking, isn't it? Very different kind of thinking. And it's rooted in that intangible force that happens when you have two or more people thinking in the same way, focused in the same direction, focused on the same outcome, focused on resolving an issue. That intangible force. You can feel it when you walk into a group. Have you ever walked into a group that's been gathered together? You have no idea why this group of people is there. They just look interesting. You walk in and you feel the tension. You feel the joy. You feel the power. That's the intangible force we're talking about. And we can recognize it and understand that it has a powerful effect on me, on you, and on others. And we can choose through our own thoughts and associations as to how that force is going to work for us or against us. Let's get Corey in here. Say, oh, Nisi J. Hey, everybody say hey to Nisi. Thank you, dear. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. So sorry about that. Welcome, Donna, James, Christian. Hi, Corey. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. I know I saw Will in there somewhere hiding.
Yeah. He's getting his tea. He's just gonna kick back for a little bit, I think.
Hard-working guy.
All right, so this intangible force of which I believe you're quite familiar with.
Absolutely.
Being a motivational speaker and faith-based as you are.
Yep.
And so I want, from your perspective, how, while I can't control the force through my own thoughts, I can control how I access the force. What do you think of that?
I agree. I believe you also can control the outcome of this force, because you can embrace the force positive,
okay,
or you can embrace the force negatively, and both of them will give you a different reaction.
You're right. So it begins with your choice.
Absolutely.
So now I'm going to throw out here, what about when we don't feel like we have a choice? What is available to us?
Well, there's always a choice. I don't think there's ever a time when you don't have a choice. You have a choice.
Okay.
It's like a man said. He says it's now. How do you see that? It's now. It's not what you do. Oh yeah, he says it's not what you do. It's how you do.
Okay.
But we choose. Some choices are more difficult than others, and this is the reason why you have people like yourself and Will, as success coaches, to give us a better perspective of how we should choose.
Okay.
So mean,
you're saying by association, then you can be open to what other choices are available.
Absolutely, because there are certain situations you really they catch you off guard, so it's kind of hard for you to kind of sometimes. So if you have that success coach, someone that you can reach out to, like these morning calls, we love you to death for that one. They jumpstart our day. They give us they put our minds in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody needs that leader, that person, that go-to person, so that when they do feel like that they're getting stuck, they can reach out and get that support they need.
I am in full agreement with that. Be it one person or, as I call, my inner circle of people that I can tap into, either one at a time or get a couple of them together and take advantage of the force that happens when we're all gathered toward and working toward something. Excellent. So we recognize then that we can do this as individuals. We have this available to us to access or tap into that intangible force? Do you have any ideas about, what's coming to mind, actually, the question I want to know and would like for anybody to jump in on is, how do you protect yourself from the intangible force that you don't want? You know what I mean? Like I walk into a group of people and I feel the tension. I walk into or sit down with a group of people and I feel the anger. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
How do we combat that? Just go in a little more detail what that looks like. You alluded to it, I know, but let's flesh that out a little bit, because the book we're reading was written right after the Depression, where an entire world, an entire country, USA especially, went so rock bottom economically that people died. People lost every physical thing that they owned. I mean, you start from the dying and then you move up. They died, some died of starvation, and some died of suicide. And then you work your way up into the levels of awfulness, right? Something very similar happened with our own recession that we are just now pulling out of. Some still aren't pulled out of it. But there's still this whole general, we've talked about this before, the news is filled with the awfulness that's happening out there. People are talking about, they're still losing their homes. People are talking about, and this is a reality, the unemployment rate in the USA is sitting at like anywhere from 5.2 to 5.5%, so under 6%. But that does not take into account those who got off of the unemployment line because there was no more money to pay them. So there's still a skyrocketing number of people who haven't found work. There's still a skyrocketing number of people. So we know all this, all right? We know all this. And when you have people that are talking about it, they get sucked into. How do we prevent ourselves from getting sucked into that?
You know, I always say that your outcome always starts from your income. What you're putting in, what you're allowing to come in, and what you put in and what you allow to come in is definitely takes an effect of what your outcome is. Now, as far as people being unemployed, as far as people being unemployed, but you know, our president has been telling us for, I don't know, since he's been in office, that we need to start getting into things to create wealth because of what's going on in our economy. And some of us choose to just stay in that rut. And then when it hits us, we go, oh my God, what am I gonna do? We've been telling you what to do for the last 8 years. You just decided not to do it. And now I did a seminar on Monday night talking about the changes that we Americans do. We tend to wait on stuff. We'll procrastinate. I mean, if the weatherman tells us there's a hurricane coming in our city, we'll sit right there until the hurricane is sitting right next to us. Why would you do that? And then you wonder why you're getting these types of outcomes. Because you're
I'm laughing because I get it. And that's what I'm talking about. You and I, in our respective cities, without question, 95% of those people in our respective cities will sit and wait to the very last minute to get something done. And then there's those 5% that say, oh, well, this is coming. I'm going to prepare. And that way I'm not going to have any stress. And I'm going to be cool. And I'm just going to keep moving forward. I think you, me, and those of us in this room are part of that 5%. Right? It's part of that 5%. And I think it's because that we are tapping into the greater force of being able to gather together. You said, you know, like you come here in the morning as a way to tap into it, as do I. That's why I show up. I keep saying, you guys show up, I'll keep showing up because I get so much out of this. I will have a group this afternoon. I have a mastermind group that's meeting. And one of the great things that I get out of it is watching that intangibles start happening because they're so focused on success, on finding answers for each other. So find our group, but understand, I think, really find your group, put it that way. I think it's important that we really understand the basic of what we're talking about here is that it all begins with our thought. That we can participate in the greater good force, the one that moves us forward, the one that is going to propel us forward. But we also have the choice to sit back and be a part of that 95% that says, well, I'll just wait until the last minute. I have plenty of time. I'll put it off. It's not that important. It's in line with how I want to move forward with my goals and achieve what I want, but I'm going to wait on that for a little while. Right?
Yep. And that's causing so many things are happening here. Now, I don't know if you ever travel, but if you ever travel in other countries, do you not know that China teaches their kids from small to adults that business mind, that business concept? China actually teaches their kids at a younger age about how to prepare for certain things. We don't teach our kids that. We teach them to go to school, get an education, and go work for this guy for the next 60, 70 years, and hopefully you retire. There's enough money in there for you to do something with. Hello, for the last 100 years, it hasn't worked.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? That goes right to the issue of what we were talking about, is that 95% of the people still think that that is the way to go. They're looking for the job. They're looking to work for somebody else. It's so ingrained in such you know, that's what they're looking for, rather than try to do something on their own.
Correct. And procrastination is I always tell you, procrastination is an enemy to your success. If you're a procrastinator, and procrastination just don't start from your business. Most of the time it starts from your home. If you're lazy around your house, you don't do nothing around your house, you don't clean around your house, you drag around, guess what? It goes to your job. It goes to your business. It goes to your kids. It goes to your kids' kids. Now you got a generation of this stuff. No, be a documentator. Don't be a procrastinator. Be a documentator.
Be a doer.
Get up.
Be a doer.
That's right.
Yeah, poor Catherine. Catherine, are your toes bruised, my dear? She's saying we keep stepping on her toes there. She at one time was the master procrastinator. She admitted that, and she said that she's been with us for quite a while, every morning here, and that's why we're able to laugh right now, because she actually is quite the doer. Quite the doer. Now, Karen is saying that she believes most people do nothing hoping all things will work themselves out. And most of the time it does, but the outcome can be anything, and most people adjust to the outcome. And see, there's the key for me. Why am I going to hope that you who is in control of, why am I going to turn that outcome over to you and hope you're able to do it? And if whatever turns out, I adjust myself to you, because that's what I'm doing, right? That's exactly what I'm doing when I say, well, I'm just going to hope this is all going to work out, because I don't want the responsibility of having done something wrong or, right, making that decision. I'm thinking of me. That's what comes up, is it's so much easier to let somebody else make that decision than for me. There was a time I was like that. I'm not that way anymore. It's been a long time since I've been that way, actually.
So then you're leaving the control. You're letting other people determine your outcome. You're letting other people determine your future.
Yeah.
I always say, my dad used to tell me all the time, he said, son, he said, if you go out there and rob a bank, he said, and if it's just you, then, it's not good, but it's okay. But if you're married and got kids and you go to jail, you affect more than you now. You affect your wife, your kids. It's the same thing in your business, man. You're gonna let somebody else determine your outcome.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
It takes a long time to change that type of thinking. That's why we're even talking about this greater force that is intangible, but it is an energy that happens when you get with a group of people. You can either surround yourself with people that are going to keep you down, that are going to keep patting you on the back and saying that, well, being miserable is just fine. Just accept things the way they are. Just be who you need to be right now. We'll let you be a little crazy and think a little weird, but you're going to, don't step out. It's scary to step out, right? Or you can start stepping out and go towards the people that are saying, you know what, we're behind you, completely behind you. We totally understand what it's like to own a business. We totally understand what it's like to be completely responsible for yourself, how to focus on an end result and get it done. Come on. You'll get our support. But it takes, first you have to be introduced to the idea. Then you have to adjust yourself to the concept that your thinking may have not done you well. Your own thinking got you where you are, right? If you don't like where you are, that's what got you where you are. So let's change the thinking, and that takes time. That's why we need to study this book. That's why you get with people like Corey and others to question it and to wonder, well, I'm still struggling with this part. And recognizing that you're struggling, but at least you're moving forward.
Kurt, there's three types of people we have in our world. That's why I love this book, Think and Grow Rich. You have the type, and I use this scenario to help people find out where they are. I said there's this person, number one, that he's in the back seat of his car. Now he's got somebody driving for him. He's in the back seat, and wherever the driver goes, he's fine with it. If he goes in a hurricane, he goes in the storm, he go down the ditch, he's in the back seat just enjoying the ride. He's watching the guy that's in the front seat controlling his life. He's watching the guy on the other side is watching the guy that's controlling his life. Then you have the second person is the passenger. The passenger is trying to tell the driver how to drive when the driver has control of his life. He controls it. That's why he's the driver. He tells the car to go right, it's going to go right. He tells it to go left, he tells it to stop, he tells it to go forward. But the passenger has a good job, making decent money, but he's not in control as the driver. And then you have the driver. The driver, man, he's the guy that's got control. If he wants it to go up, down, fast, slow, stop, go, he's got it. Now the problem is, which one of those three is everybody on this call, on this blob is? Are you 1, 2, or 3? If you're number one, you need to upgrade.
Upgrade, up level.
If you're number 2, it's great you have a good job, but keep in mind, you're working for somebody else. They are going to control what you eat, what you drive, you spend time with your family. Guys, when I say it, people do not believe, but I'm telling you, my brother's a multi-millionaire. And I'm telling you, his employees, he got it down to the science. He knows how much money to pay them per hour to make them come back next week and do it again. Mm-hmm. So if he's got a sense, how about everybody else? Your job knows how much money to pay you to make you come back next week. They know it. If they don't want you in a Red Lobster, they know how much money to pay you to keep your behind out of Red Lobster. They got it down to a science. We got to wake up here and be the driver. Control it. You don't have to work for somebody else. God put enough in you that you are great. You're an awesome person. You don't have to work for somebody else. You might start off that way, but you don't have to remain that way. Somewhere you got to want to have your own where you are in control.
Mm-hmm. So how do we get them there?
By having a successful leader. And this is the reason why I was talking about the person that's number 2. Because you have to decide that I don't want to be like this. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be around the mindset of people like this. So what do? Napoleon Hill says in the book, if you want to be successful, find the people that have the results you want and do what? Duplicate their efforts and you're guaranteed their success. You are one of them, Charlene. Will, who's not in the seat, it's blowing my mind. He's another one. So there's success coaches around you. You just have to make a decision to make that change. If you duplicate their efforts, you are guaranteed their success. Man, if I told you, and I'm not boasting, I'm not trying to impress anybody, but I want to impress upon you that if it happens for me, it can happen. Do you not know that tomorrow I get a bonus check of $12,000 for what I did 4 days ago? No, are you serious? You don't want that? I wanted that, so I watched my brother, and I watched my brother, and I watched my brother, and I learned what he did, and now I'm a duplication of what he does.
Yep.
And I'm telling people, if you want to, yeah, I mean, so I'm telling people you can do this, but you got to make a decision and make that. You know, as I said before, if the wheel is big enough, the facts don't count. So what? You don't have a job. So what? You don't have a car. So what? You don't have a house. That's where you are now. It is not where you're going to be.
So that answers actually Karen's question, which is an excellent question to just put out there. How do you change this internal mindset? How do you change your mindset? Corey just nailed it. First, you have to make the decision that you want to change it. Now, once you've done that, then you can place yourself in with people who have the mindset that you want and learn what it is that we do. That's what we talk about every morning here. We talk about how we're changing our mindset. This is exactly what Corey's talking about. He watched, he learned from somebody. I'm modeling somebody else's excellence. I am, taking the business that I have. I'm not an entrepreneur. I didn't start from complete scratch with nothing. I took an existing business model. I didn't want to start from nothing. I took a model that works, and I started applying it and taking care of it myself, putting myself into it, learning it along the way, following those who are successful in business. But I also had a lot of internal things that I wanted to change over the years. It was my perspective on the world. It was how I interacted with the world. It was about me. I didn't want to change the world. I just wanted to change me enough to be able to be a better me. So what I did was I surrounded myself with people who knew how to do that. I had a little old lady that I'd go to her house with a cup of coffee, and I'd say, Gwen, I'm driving myself crazy here. I'm bumping up against walls. I'm not understanding why I can't. My biggest issues were crowds and dealing with people. My communication skills were backward, and my social skills were definitely backward. And she helped me. And then there's Gigi, another gal who in business told me how to negotiate, how to sit in front of somebody and negotiate a salary, how to negotiate a project, how to negotiate my role in it. It took practice. But I always had somebody I could go to say, how do I do this? And then the one thing at a time, which is what was drilled into my brain since my 20s. Just take one thing at a time. Don't try to change everything about yourself because you don't need to. You only change that which is an obstacle to getting where you want to go. And honestly, I'm just going to put this out here. I've said this before in this program. In my 20s, where did I want to go? My entire goal was to be able to walk outside the front door and not be absolutely terrified of people, places, and things. That was the goal. It took time, and I did it. Then it was another goal. Then it was another. Then it was another. One thing at a time. But it was daily morning rituals. It was checking in with somebody who was helping me to make these changes. And now as I've gotten older, my goals are very different, but the rituals are still the same, right? I still have my morning things. I got my morning prayers. I've got my morning meditation. I've got my readings that I do. I come here to get with you guys. And I also tap into some people that I'm following to see where they are now and checkpointing with myself. Where am I on my goals? Not only for my personal, but also to my business goals. And Corey, wow. You're just reading away, my friend.
Yes, I'm reading.
Is it Karen or Cindy?
Yeah, write it for you. That's some.
Yes, Cindy is an outstanding thinker and writer. She's saying sometimes it's easier to slip into the passenger seat. Yes, it is. Sometimes you've been working so hard. I've been there. It is just easy to sit back enough, take a break, and I still do it. I'll do it today, but I look at it as just a break. It's a stopping point. It's not permanent. Remember when I was telling you guys I was in survival mode up until last year? Right? I knew I was there. I knew I had to change it. Nothing I was doing was changing it, so I didn't stop looking for something to change it. This program is what changed it. Gathering with you and having you tell me how you see the world and how you see these principles and what have you. I was in the passenger seat in survival mode. I was tired, but I also wanted to change that, and I couldn't. So I went to you guys. You changed it for me. Thank you. And then we have Karen saying it will address slothfulness, negative self-talk, past hurts, words, spoken negative that you embrace, behaviors, habits, everything about who you are. Yes. Be ready for the new group of people that will challenge you to be greater. Yes. You will be challenged. You will feel challenged. It's interesting. She's saying you will feel attacked or criticized, judged, or ridiculed. And it'll feel that way, though the intention isn't to criticize or to attack. The intention, when you feel that way and you're in that group of people, the intention is simply to show you the way. Your reaction to what the new way is feeling attacked because you only know the old way. And it's scary to go forward. That's the only reason that you feel attacked. Other than, that's if you're in the right group of people that are helping you move forward, right?
Right.
That's a totally different, I'm being criticized and attacked for who you are right now and what you're doing. That's again, context.
There's a difference between success coaches and people leaders and haters. Now you're gonna have haters.
Yes, big difference.
Big difference. Let me tell you how to handle those haters. Massive success.
Do it in spite of them.
Corey, you can't do it. Oh my God, this is impossible. That's a scam. That thing will never work. My grandma told me and she tried it. I said, really? I said, check back me in 6 months and I'll let you know.
Let me find out for myself, right?
Massive success. You want to shut those naysayers and those haters? Massive success. Burn them up with massive success. They'll be mad with you from now until Jesus comes.
All the while you're laughing to the bank, right?
Correct. Now the good thing about haters, guys, is this: some haters will become associations, because then you make them lie, and someone will come to you and say, you know what, you were right. And you wind up, they might have been your best friend, they might have been your best coach, your best student. But then you got haters that just ain't gonna do nothing. They're gonna argue, they're gonna complain, and they're gonna talk noise about you all week. But then you burn them up with massive success. You don't do evil for evil, you just do massive success. Pull up in that BMW,
whatever it takes. Now, seeing that you're pulling on that intangible force of the association you have with those who are successful and those you are following and modeling, to be able to push back or to ignore or to put a barrier up for the haters. That's why we're able to do it. I had to learn how to do that. I had to learn how to, as I was stepping out from behind my company name and just stepping out of Charlene Burke, that was very difficult because I spent many years building up the company name. And to step out as myself was to say that it's me who is talking like this. It is me who thinks like this. And I get a lot of pushback from people because, and depending on your level of closest to me, as whether I will attach emotion to it. So I laughingly say, my husband can say this, is that he married me when I was weird, and then he elevated me to odd. And I'm okay with that. All right? I'm okay with that out of him. But I get that I've always been the odd one. I've always been the weird thinker. I've always been called strange. And mostly I've been said, could you say it differently? Because really what the response from most people is I don't understand you. I don't understand you. Right? And so that gets to you. I mean, when, most creatives out here understand that. I'm more of a thinker and analyzer and tear it aparter and find answers and get answers and all that, more the scientific side. But anyway, when you have that, you just shut up. And that was me. So I don't express that a lot. But I've had to over the past year or so and come out from behind a lot of the words that were put by the company. Now it's me. So that's why I'm saying there's different levels of growth in there. And there's always something to challenge you and something to grow from. And I'm going to tell you that as I stepped out, as anxious as I was, and the level of anxiety that I had was lessened when I had my husband continually tell me that he's right beside me. He thinks I'm awesome. And every once in a while, it's okay to be odd. And when I had groups of people like you all, you guys keep showing up. That's the big message to me, you know. And I have this tight-knit inner circle that tells me that you went a little off there, but it's okay. And so any haters that are starting to show up, I now have this foundation, right? That intangible force that I'm calling on to bounce it back to them.
What did he say?
Oh, I don't know. Christians, I say kill them with kindness. Practice a courteous disregard to those projecting negativity. Everyone has a valid viewpoint, but I don't have to agree or engage. Oh, I don't engage. I almost never did. I pretty much never did. Half the time I was so much smarter than them, they wouldn't understand the comeback that I threw at them, quite honestly. But I'm a prayer. And oftentimes I'll say, well, isn't that interesting? What a shame. And just walk away.
Have you guys ever heard of this product called Rain-X?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one you put on your window to keep the rain from sticking to your window. This is what we need in ourselves. We need some Rain-X.
There you go.
And when negative things come to you, the reason why they don't stick is because you got that propellant. How do you stay propellant? Charlene is a great example of how to stay away from those propellants. Get on these trainers. Follow her. Follow Will. Follow Corey. Follow some other leaders. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
You know, and we give you the propellant, that resistance. The negative is going to come, but it's like reading a book. There's certain pages you don't like to read, which you just turn to the next page. You have to you skip over it. The same thing in life. There's things going to come at you. You don't have to receive it. You don't have to read it. You don't have to accept it, and you don't have to eat it. And most importantly, you don't have to be it either.
There you go. You just nailed it, that it's always your choice. The difficulty, and what comes to my mind is when you are at the beginning of making these types of changes, when you're going from always being totally aware of what everybody's saying and absorbing it to being, having the shield there to repel it, rarely is it overnight. I'm going to say it wasn't for me, but it took time, and it took practice, and it took conscious effort, because I made the decision that I wanted to think differently and see things differently and be different. So that's where it starts. You make the decision, surround yourself with the people that can show you how, walk you through how, and then start practicing it. And then there comes a time when you're able to show somebody else and add them to your circle. Now, did Corey freeze or did I freeze? I just keep talking. Okay, must have been Corey. All right. I'm just going to keep talking just in case. You guys are terrific. Oh, you determined long ago to be a duck. Everything just rolls right off their back. Yeah, but those feet are just paddling like crazy underneath, aren't they? Paddling like crazy. Welcome, Pamela. It's been a while since I've seen you, so good to see you again. Hey, Craig. How are things? Good to see you, Walter. Welcome. Bohemian Babushka. If nothing else, that's a terrific name. Glad you're here. Donna, again, glad you are here. Catherine, first time here, huh? Is there a name that you would like to be called instead of Babushka? This is chapter 13. We are pretty much at the end of that chapter. BB is fine. All right, BB, welcome. We are at the end of the chapter where subheading actually is the greatest forces are intangible. I'm talking about we're talking about the force of thought and energy with a group. We can call it peer pressure. That you will be influenced by the people you associate with. I mean, that's a simplified version. And it goes to worldwide as well, coming out of this recession. How deeply ingrained is it in our minds to be a particular way? How deeply ingrained is it that if we don't like where we are, we complain rather than do something about it? That intangible force is there, but it's up to you to make the decision that you want to tap into it. Really, it is. And honestly, if you're to the point, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you are to the point where you're willing to grasp onto anything because you've had enough, that's it. You just simply cannot take any more. You have to change. Now's the time to do it. You know the people that you want to connect with them. And be willing to hear how they did what they've done to get where they are so that you can do the same thing. Learn from those that you want to be like or to emulate. And there it is, be more. Yeah, the moment you decide that the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain to change. Yeah, it is. And sometimes we just have to get to that point, don't we? We just have to. There comes a time when there's a willingness to do absolutely anything to not be where we are right now. And it doesn't have to be a horrifying, at the depths bankruptcy type of thing. It can just be where I was a year or so ago, where I was just stuck in the way of thinking of short term. I didn't trust long-term thinking. I just didn't trust it because I'd been stuck in short-term survival thinking for so long that I didn't dare think past a year or 2 years or 3 years. I just didn't dare. I do now because I'm in thrive mode now. And that, yeah. And it can be comfortable because it's what we know. Let's get Christian in here. There he is. Good morning, Christian.
Good morning. Good morning. I've been procrastinating getting on. I was like, this is such a great discussion. I want to sleep though. I want to sleep.
And suddenly he is here.
Yeah. Everyone's just contributing so many great thoughts and ideas about this topic. And yeah, a lot of great words here on the side as well. But I have a perspective that maybe contribute. Thank you, B More. I don't know, not since yesterday. It's probably just a light. I normally keep it trim anyway. She's making a comment about my hair.
Okay.
But
yeah, because I saw him yesterday.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Now we lost his audio.
Okay.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Anyway. But anyway, there's this, my dad was in the Navy, so there's charts and there's like currents, right? And that's, the ships usually, you would think, okay, they're just going to go straight across, but that's not actually the fastest way. The fastest way is to follow and then to go with the currents, right? Right. And there's also the idea of sails, right? So, and sails catch the wind. And if you think about like, okay, your old thought habits that may be leading you where you don't want to go, it's like your sails are set in a certain direction. right? And you say, okay, but I decided I want to go this direction, you know, and then you like, but you're not changing your sales to actually go in a different direction. And when you're talking about, okay, let me talk to Charlene, let me talk to Corey, let me get on, let me read Think and Grow Rich, let me hang around some people who have a positive mindset. It's like setting your sales in a different direction, right? And that's why you know, I'm studying this thing called NLP, but I'm sorry, I'm going too fast. I'm studying this thing called NLP, which means neuro linguistic programming, which to me is basically what Charlene and everyone else has been talking about. Okay, how do you find someone who's doing well, right? And start to change your mindset, start to change the way that you think in order to actually start to model their success, right? And it's effective, you know. It works, but the reason I wanted to use that analogy is because we were talking about these unseen forces, these intangible forces, right?
Yep.
And that's what, you know, we're all using the same forces, you know, and they're using and they're around all of us, right? It's just that if you have the habit of only tapping into the negative forces, that's what you're going to get, right? Or if you, like when Charlene was talking about, you go into a room and there's just negative energy in there, I'm going to change it, right? I'm going to change the energy, or I'm going to leave the room, right? And so it's because I used to be someone who can, okay, yeah, I can get into the vibe of the negative energy and even probably rule, you know, and dominate it and make be the worst person in there, right? But I made a
I
choice.
can outdo your suffering.
Exactly.
You know I can.
We
Go
could
ahead,
all
try me.
we could all be bad together, right? But no, I'm like, no, I don't make that choice anymore, you know. And it's like, and it makes me think of you know, back, you know, in the day, you know, you used to rap, right? And so it's, or freestyle, and when you're freestyling, you all stand in a circle kind of, and you take turns, and you'll notice if one person starts talking about something, the next person starts talking about it, the next person, and they all try to outdo each other about talking
Right.
about things. And I used to do this in the little rap circles. So I would completely transition the whole conversation, right? Oh, you know, drugs, guns, killing. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. And by the time, right before it comes to me, you know, this guy, he's like Dexter or something, right? You know, like, yeah. And I know him. He's not that way at all in real life, you know, but he's talking about all this crazy killing and stuff
That's
that
where the
he
mind
would.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I would just shift it, you know. I'm like, you know, I'm powerfully positive. You know, people are uplifted around me. Like the same kind of thoughts I have going on inside is kind of like what comes out here. And then it uplifts the whole. You can feel the whole energy shift of the whole cipher, right? And then it's like, yeah, you know, I actually do like life, and I do want things to be good, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, so it's really what I like to see is there are currents happening all the time, and you know, this may get a little complicated, but I see the same metaphor that I'm talking about with the ships. However, there's like one ocean and another ocean and another ocean and another ocean.
Okay.
So there's levels, right? And so you may be down here at this level and up.
But no, wait a minute. That's the way it is with the currents within the ocean, just as it is with the air current.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
If you have the top level, then you have the second level, and then riptide, right, which is underneath, and then you have another level down below. So there's cross currents, undercurrents.
That's true. So I'm glad you know that. So yeah, so it is that way. So if you happen to see, but the truth of it, you know, if you think about it metaphorically with the success and everything, a lot of times we're below the surface somewhere, right? And we see this big old ship up here, and we're like, oh, I want to go there, right? But the currents where you are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, get with them, get yourself lifted to where they're at, and then it'll just actually become so natural for you to actually go where you want to go, you know, in a positive lane, because it's like, okay, let me get in that lane.
So what came to my mind is I've often heard, just grab onto somebody else's coattails. You know, as they're running by you, grab their coattail, they'll pull you along.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is how you win races when you're doing stock car racing, of which I've done. You draft. You get on the leaders or the one who's going faster than you, get on their tail and get close enough, and it looks like we're touching, but we still have this much room. close enough that the draft from the car in front of you actually envelopes the car you're in and pulls you. And you can take that and slingshot around and use that force. Again, those intangibles. But if you know they're there, just as Christian is describing, the currents, if you know they're there, now you can take advantage of them. Now you can tap into them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, and I always think it's so cool every time you mention it that you've done stock car racing, because when I first met her, I was like,
go-karts. Yep.
She's racing cars. I was like, that's so awesome. I love racing.
Yep.
But yeah, it's so true. What you're saying about
motorcycle.
And you said motorcycle too?
No, I don't motorcycle race,
okay.
but I had a motorcycle for years. Loved my bike.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, it's like, okay, understand that there are currents and use them, right? So like today, get yourself thinking in a positive way, and you're moving your whole current in a positive direction.
Right. So that's what we're going to take away today. I'm going to close down the recording portion. That's what we're going to take away from this right now. That force, the intangible force that begins with our thinking, tapping into other people's thinking to get into their current. Right? If we're sitting here and just bobbing along, hoping we're going to catch a crappie, just like a bobber, let's go after this one. Is going after the bass, which is going quicker. Right? Let me catch the coattail or the anchor of somebody who is moving faster than me, and let me get into their current and learn how to do what they're doing. Great stuff. So thank you for joining me in the live stream, Corey and Christian. Thank you, those in the comment section, for adding to the discussion here. Greatly appreciated. And those just watching, so glad you're here. I wouldn't be here if you weren't. And those watching the replay, hey, thanks for sticking with us this long. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.